Okay, I have a full video on how I make homemade noodles, but I thought I'd just throw in a short little, I guess, tutorial you could say here on what I'm doing, because the recipe that I'm gonna record later is made with homemade noodles. So I have the rest of my dough sitting in there with a damp towel over it so it doesn't dry before I roll it out. And that's about how much dough I take at a time. I put a very light coating of flour on the counter. I roll it out as thin as I can, and I do have a pasta maker, but today I'm not making it. I'm doing it the rustic old school way. I roll it out as thin as I can, and then I'll take that dough and put it on my cutting board to cut, and I cut thin pieces. Well, I wouldn't say thin. I like a fettuccine type pasta, so I'm cutting it like that, and I'm not being super accurate or going for a certain, width or measurement. I am just cutting away, and then I'm placing it on a cookie sheet just so I can take it and move it around the kitchen if I need the counter room. I have more counter room in this home than I did my last one, but I could still use more. Who couldn't, right? So I find it easier to put the cut pasta on a cookie sheet, and that way I can move it around and let it dry for a while, while I'm doing other things. So that was just the short little tutorial I wanted to share with you at this point. I will be linking my my homemade noodle video in the description box below, and I'll pop in just the recipe in the description box below for the noodles. Okay, so I'm getting ready to start my sardine pasta, and I've assembled my ingredients. I'm going to be using 2 cups of chopped spinach. That's frozen. You could use fresh. I'm going to use about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 large garlic cloves, 1 4.4 ounce package of sardines in olive oil, a small can of mushrooms. If I had fresh, I would use them, definitely. I don't, so the canned will work fine. I'll use parsley to taste, and fresh parsley would be wonderful on this, or in this. I don't have fresh parsley, so the dried will do just fine. Black pepper, I'm going to guess, because I really don't measure, but about a 1/4 teaspoon. And you can do a little more or less based on your taste. And lastly, but certainly not least, is the Parmesan cheese. And I will be using a little bit in the recipe and then topping it off when I plate it. Now for the noodles, I am using my homemade pasta that has dried all afternoon, and I hope this is enough. It's for 2 people, me and my son. I am really hungry today, and for some reason this just doesn't look like a lot of pasta, not for like a main dish anyway. I think it's probably going to prove me wrong. It always does things like this, but this was 1 batch, and yeah, so I hope it's enough. So what I'm going to start with is putting the olive oil and garlic in the pan on a low to medium heat, and get that garlic sauteed. Okay, so I've chopped my garlic and I put it in the pan with the 3 tablespoons of oil. I've had it simmering for about a minute on medium low. And I've got my pasta that's cooking away over there. And this is, now I have, helps to point the camera where it needs to go. This I'm going to put on real low now because it is starting to brown and I don't want it to burn. So what I'm going to add next is the spinach. And I'll give that a stir. Okay, and I'm going to add just a shake of the pepper. And I'm going to add my can of mushrooms to this also right at this point. And stir those in a little bit, just incorporate it. Okay, now I am going to take a lid and put it on top of this pan so that spinach can defrost and get heated up. Okay, so I have stirred in my my mushrooms. I think I said that the last time I was on the camera. But I've also stirred in my pepper, just a couple twists of pink Himalayan salt, and the parsley and Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to give this another stir. My noodles are drained, they're ready, and I'll put this all together. I had forgot something. I put in the sardines. I just give them a chop. I do drain them, give them a little chop, and take out that, I call it the little spiny thing that's in there in the sardines. I take that out, just give them a rough chop, and I also added those. Okay, so there is the plated dish. It is absolutely delicious. I topped it with more Parmesan, and I am ready to eat. And I'll have to say that that was plenty of pasta. I don't know what, I always run into the same question in my head. I always think, oh my God, it's not going to be enough. It must be my Italian roots. Let me show you the pan. There's still, I took my portion out. I do need to give my son his, but there's definitely going to be leftovers. So, yeah, and it is delicious. I will have the recipe down in the description box.